It feels like Turning Point USA is just determined to completely self destruct following the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Initially after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, it seemed like Turning Point USA had everybody's support, aside from the left. Like most people were like really going to get behind Turning Point and wanted to come out and support Charlie Kirk. I wasn't even a fan of Charlie Kirk, but following that public assassination, I became very interested in Charlie Kirk, wanting to find out exactly what happened, what the truth was. And the official narrative didn't make any sense. And one of the only people that's really been trying to pursue and ask questions and kind of speculate as to what's really happening was Candace Owens. Turning Point USA has been pretty silent on a lot of the speculation that's been coming from Candace. And last week they kind of threw out like this challenge, and I thought we were finally going to see them debunk a lot of the things that she had been saying, asking questions about. But then no sooner than they threw out the challenge to Candace to come participate in this little sit down, that they made like these really weird stipulations that she had to respond within 24 hours. And here, I'll let Blake Neff, because somebody called into their show and asked them like why they had to be so weird about it. So here's Blake Neff saying why they were very specific with the rules and outline for their discussion with Candace.
She has said things that are not true, and we did not address them for a long time. We stated the reasons why, that we thought a lot of them were just not, how to put it, we initially just thought no one would believe a lot of what was being said, and we also just, we remembered the same friendship that Charlie had, and we just hoped that this would go away without requiring any sort of direct statement or confrontation from us. So what was approved is we announced we are going to respond to this, and what I said was we are going to announce a date soon. We actually hadn't agreed on it at the time I read the statement. We're going to announce a date where we're going to respond to this, and once we announce it, Candace is free to attend in person. That is what we announced. And so once we agreed on a time, I announced what the time was going to be. Candace, for her part, had said, you name the time, you name the place. That is what we did. As for why it was put out at that time, I would just say I don't think she had any difficulty in finding out what our scheduled time was. It seems everyone found it out quite quickly. And lastly, on the point of why it's in person, I think it's pretty intuitive that given what is being said, the way this has worked is that it's critical to be in person if you want to be authentic and to be detailed. And that is what we think is a fair request to make if she's going to participate. But regardless, it is going to go forward because we have agreed that some response needs to be made. And so that's going to happen when we announced it on December 15th. It was on the show.
So that was Blake Neff talking. And by the way, if you notice at the end of that video, it looped back around, but he's talking with Andrew Colvett, who's there like via like a Zoom meeting or virtual, like he's there virtually. He's not actually in person. And they said that one of the reasons that Candace has to be there in person is because it makes it more authentic. I think we're beyond that. I mean, it's, that's just how things are now. People can come in virtually. I mean, they do it on the mainstream media. They do it all the time. People don't have to be in person, which seems like extremely sus to say like, well, Candace has to be here in person. That's led to people speculating that Turning Point's trying to assassinate her. Like it's a weird look. It's a weird take. And then they said the reason that they're just now finally responding to a lot of the speculation is that they didn't think anyone would believe any of the things that Candace was saying. But they believe the mainstream narrative surrounding the shooting. They think that the guy on the roof disassembled the rifle, hopped off the roof, went, reassembled the rifle, wrapped it in a towel, left it there, then decided to leave a long text confession to his boyfriend or girlfriend, and Then you got the George Zinn guy in the crowd that immediately was saying it was me, and George Zinn's been tied to other weird stories with like 9/11 and then other bomb threats. The fact that the 30-06 round just happened to lodge into Charlie Kirk's spine, and it didn't actually go through, and you have all sorts of hunters and military service members and other people that have shot 30-06 rounds and talk. I mean, it's a big round. Like, it's significantly bigger than like a 7.62 or a 5.56 or anything like that. You had the FBI change of leadership in Utah in August. There's just a lot of weird things surrounding the story. All Candace has done is ask questions, speculate, and she's wondering why Turning Point is also not asking these same questions or curious. And I think everybody else is. At least I know I am. Like I said, I thought Turning Point was going to come out and just debunk Candace. And I was looking forward to listening to that debate. Isn't that supposed to be Turning Point's whole thing? That's what Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk didn't go to campuses and say, well, these people's claims are so ridiculous that I'm not even going to address them. That was the whole point, right? Like, we're going to challenge bad ideas with good ideas. If you all can shut down Candace, then do that. But instead, they came out with this cop-out excuse for why they're not going to let Candace participate. And Candace on the show the next day showed, like, I reached out to them. I said, hey, why would you guys set this date, set this? I said anytime, any place, but you would think that there would be some type of coordination, some type of communications between the two campuses to be like, okay, look, we'll sit down, we'll pick a date, we'll get together. But instead, they just picked the date, the time, and said, well, Candace has to be there in person. If not, sorry, you won't be able to make it. And it just seems very disingenuous. It makes them seem very fake. And that's the reason why they look bad. I mean, and again, I'm not even attacking, any of the reaction stuff that I've seen. People are like, oh, well, Mikey McCoy just walked away and the other dude went and made a selfie video. Like, everybody reacts differently to that. I get that. That is all just, speculation. You can't, that doesn't prove a thing. But what's weird is the fact that they don't think any of the other stuff is weird. I mean, how can you look at this? Or the fact that UVU, like, completely paved over the crime scene. Like, if you can go look that up, like, they had this construction, they put down these concrete pavers. So basically, if there is a defense, whoever Tyler Robertson's attorney is, he can't go back and really reconstruct the crime scene and try to make a case for it. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that don't really add up here. The stuff with ties to the property being owned by some people that were representative of Palantir, and now you start, like I said, Candace Owens has really started to go through some rabbit holes with Turning Point USA and Rob McCoy and the Calvary Church and all these other groups. So I mean, they're not helping themselves. If anything, Turning Point USA is in self-destruct mode.